Hello everyone and welcome to WhatCulture Gaming on this brilliantly cold and freezing and windy morning here in Britain. My name is Jules Gill and I'm joined by the man who I will always say lives up to my expectations from 2018, Scott Tailford.
That could be bad if I was bad in 2018, but we'll go with good things.
No, you were definitely good. You've been a firm friend ever since I started working here. And you will be until the day that I die.
Good. There's a lot more goodwill.
2020.
He's planning every day.
yeah.
There's a lot more goodwill here than there is surrounding Warcraft 3 segue.
Indeed, which is why we're going to be talking about it today.
Yeah, seems like it's one of the most hated new things on the planet.
Now, this is the thing. So, to give a bit of context to this, Warcraft 3 was one of widely praised games, like one of the best of the golden age of sort of RTS games, like Command and Conquer and stuff like that. Like, everyone praised its amazing like graphical style, the way that it had this incredible lore, like high fantasy, high action, brilliant fun. When Blizzard then announced that they were going to be doing a sort of remaster of this back in 2018,
18 was the trailer,
there was a long wait for it, but they said, look, be patient, it's something we want to do right, we're going to make sure that it is exactly like the old school experience, but updated for you young'uns. And it has released to overwhelmingly negative critical reception, which we'll go into as to why. But seriously, at the moment, Blizzard have been basically trying to fight fires left, right, and centre, and not entirely doing it in the right way. So we'll detail on that.
At the minute, there's like 17,000 votes on the Metacritic, which puts it at 0.5 out of 10.
Now, obviously, sensationalism and things like that do mean that people, once they get wind of it, they will spin and spin and spin. And I'm not defending this in any particular way, hence what we will go into in a second.
Yeah.
But just take it all with, what's the expression? Everyone says that the expression is wrong. Take it with a pinch of salt.
Well, is it not meant to be that?
It's not meant to be that.
What's it meant to be?
It's meant to be something else, but I don't know what it is.
Okay.
It's just one of those things that's changed.
Answers in the comments.
Not the point. Let's carry on with Warcraft 3.
Either way, it's been downvoted to hell because the original trailer back in 2018, even the cinematics that they showed off were very much that sort of like standard signature Blizzard, nicely animated, like what Overwatch led with, like oh my god, they've taken this thing from the 90s and they've made it look like a brand new, well animated thing. Those cutscenes aren't in the game, which is point one.
The cutscenes had what I would consider to be the Time Splitter's wobble finger. Now, it's not an artistic, creative thing or official stuff.
Jules.
No, but it's
okay.
good. It's when you do this, instead of pointing and saying, hey, let's go over here, they do this.
Okay.
It's wobble finger.
I'm a big fan. I think that the thing, Blizzard have kind of become a little bit known as the video game Pixar in regards to how the cutscenes come together. And obviously fans are looking forward to that stuff. Now you did say that obviously sensationalism has kind of taken over, but there is a pretty naff product at the heart of this.
Oh yeah.
But there is a recent write-up on VG247 that just sort of laying out look, some of these newer camera angles from the remastered cutscenes are still in the game, but it's only applied to a very select few of newer cutscenes. Overall, the lack of presentation isn't there.
There's a video that's going around at the moment showing exactly what people were shown in 2018 versus what we were delivered now, and it's a cutscene from The Purge, I think it is, or it's like The Plague or something like that, and the camera angles are completely different. It's static, there's no animation whatsoever, it's just the models just turning and going. So
they did, they have up-res the character models, some of the models are different, but it's still a far cry from that stuff.
Totally misinformed as to what you were going to be expecting. People were expecting it to be the cutscenes to be cinematic, epic, to draw you in, and then the gameplay to start after that. In this one, it's literally in-game footage from the combat engine, just completely no effort made whatsoever to make it feel cinematic.
No, and so Scour Online, they did post about this stuff, but they didn't take the original trailer down, and obviously they have their big annual event BlizzCon. It's safe to say that the 2018 version is the one that everyone was looking forward to.
Yeah, of course.
And just because they rolled out a couple of hey, by the way, this thing's actually not going to come out like what we showed, they didn't get that out there anywhere near as much as they should have done.
I mean, it's interesting that they have such a huge media market, media side to their company that can make sure that every message is delivered how they want to be. Yeah, they're Blizzard. They can get a message out. So a few little hints on a forum as to try and downplay the fact that it's there, just so that they can take those quotes and tell people, no, we warned you. It's no, you didn't. Yeah. You technically warned us, but you did not make that widely available.
It's sort of like something in the terms and conditions after you've watched an entire advert and it's not actually going to be how it's going to go.
Now most things put in the very bottom just saying product final to change or whatever, it made
completely change.
Yeah, make be completely different. They usually put that at the bottom because of the fact that it is a trades and standards practice. You are misselling something if you are basically saying this is what you will be getting. Actually know it's not.
So there is that. So that's kind of the opening salvos that, even from like a more casual perspective, which is what we have, you can tell that side by side it's not what they advertised a couple of years ago. But it gets way more ugly because they've changed a whole load of stuff in their user agreement, which relates to the Warcraft 3 user mods. Now, in the original game, you could modify the game, and one of the biggest mods that took off is now Dota 2, which is one of the biggest, most lucrative RTSs on the planet.
Pretty sure that it held the record for the biggest sort of esports prize pool recently.
Right, and there's so much goodwill around Dota. Like, obviously it has its fans, and like it's an esport, it's a massive thing. In the new user agreement, Blizzard have completely changed that. None of the mods made in Warcraft 3 Reforged can be, but they immediately belong to Blizzard by default. Now obviously it's because they don't want another Dota situation, but it flies in the face of, it shows just how much has changed.
That is quite funny actually, because you've got like, I totally understand from a business perspective that they've gone like, look, this was a massive offshoot and we lost out because of that, because they used our engine to make something else. Fine, they're trying to do that, but doesn't that just sort of scream that there is no goodwill between Blizzard and its fans to just be like, you can mod this, but as soon as you mod anything, it is ours. Did you make that? No, actually, I think if you check on the license agreement, we made that.
It's ours now.
So how is that going to encourage anyone to make anything fun? Because they'll just sit there and just be like, well, it shouldn't be about them making money off of it, obviously. It should be about the passion, in theory. But at the same time, wouldn't that completely put a dampener on your thing, just being like, well, I don't want to make you more money when you've got millions and millions and millions.
Well, there is that, but I think like it's strange because obviously I get the business reality of it. I think we all do. Like, if you made an RPG using the Gamebryo or the Creation engine, Bethesda's engine, you made something that was very similar to Skyrim, you obviously wouldn't be able to own that. It belongs to Bethesda. But Blizzard set one hell of a precedent when people who modded Warcraft 3 to make Dota then ran away with that, and they supported it. Dota's got one of the most respected, or it's kind of gone back and forward, but at the minute, I think, has one of the most respected in-game economies, because they've gone back and forward with how to monetize that whole thing. They have different prize pools, and like I said, it's an esport. So like at the same time, they had all this goodwill, they had all this player first type stuff, and they've completely inverted it. Well, it's a really bad, another precedent to set.
And it falls straight in line with the next point, which is talking about the refunds. Now, this is the thing. If you are unhappy with a game or a product, you have every right as a consumer to return it. That's
unless you're a Blizzard fan.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing, is that even like Steam went through a long period of trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to make sure that people who buy bad games or games that they don't want are able to get it there. Their Steam refund policy still has quite a few issues, but it's much better than it was.
At least they have one.
Yeah, at least they have one. It's like you have to play with under like 2 hours or something like that, and then you can return it no matter what the problem is.
I think so.
Blizzard, on the other hand, are saying, right, you bought this game, you pre-ordered it, it's been going for absolutely ages. What's that? You want a refund? I'm sorry, I don't understand that language. Is that some sort of quest from Amma Kathor?
Refund? I've never heard of it.
I speak Elvish, Druidic, and Orc, but apparently I don't speak refund.
No.
So they've been saying no refunds whatsoever, and it is they're even going so far as to actually ban people from forums who are saying, actually, here's a workaround, and here's the language that you need to use in order to make sure that you definitely qualify for a refund. Because this is a lot of thing. There are some companies that have a few technicalities that you need to, hoops to jump through in order to get stuff back. You can't just say, this game is crap. That actually doesn't fly in the thing of just because they'll be like, why, what's the problem with it? You can't just say the game looks bad, but if it is poorly optimized, if it doesn't provide this, if it does not provide what it was promised, as in the
trailer, it's definitely falsely advertised,
then you'll be able to claim back there. But Blizzard have just said, right, okay, well, we're going to ban people who are giving that information out to people, and
it's the way that they've done it on the forums. Like people who are even discussing the faults of the game, they're trying to remove a lot of those comments. There are people posting about that, saying that they've been given 2-week bans, and you creating new accounts to try and get the word out. They're like, hey, this is happening to my main account, and it's just it reminds me of OZR Editor mentioned that it's the same thing they did with the Diablo Immortal trailer, which is obviously received like hell. They deleted that original trailer and re-uploaded it to sort of wipe the slate clean and get rid of all the negative downvotes and everything. But it speaks to that corporatization, that control the message, PR speak type stuff, which again is the complete opposite of what they initially built themselves on. They were always known as the player first company, or one of those companies, and now they could not be more controlled and sterile and cold.
I don't understand as well, because you get companies that do this, and it's not just Blizzard. You get loads of people trying to control their message, but it's a case of do they not understand that the internet exists? The internet will always have a record of everything you've done, good or bad. So therefore, it will just be a case of them just going, no, we do remember this. We're not like
the screenshots.
We're not just going to forget because you told us that this is the case. Like, you can't rewrite your truth like that.
No, and it's like, and another thing in terms of like Blizzard's recent history is the whole thing with Overwatch and all the Hong Kong protests and which sort of stance they took on that. And they kind of went back and forward on it. And obviously at BlizzCon, they said that Blitz Chung would be getting his money back, but they didn't really take that much of a stance on addressing all the free speech stuff. They just sort of said like, well, you know, we would have come down on someone if it was the opposite stance. And it's just like they just seem to be in a very messy situation at the minute where they don't really seem to have that initial player base anymore.
I don't understand what they're aiming to do with this. Like, it's
make money
by basically telling your player base that you don't have any rights, you don't have any freedom to express yourself, and like get the back. Like, what would it have hurt them in the grand scheme of things to say, look, it's not actually in the place that we want Warcraft 3 to be, but we will improve on it. Please, here's a refund and come back when the game is ready, sort of thing. Like, it's you're allowed to make mistakes, but this one just seems catastrophic. I think because the actual problems with the games themselves, they're huge. Like we were saying before about the animations weren't in the right place.
Oh god,
There's a load of features missing from online as well. Apparently, like multiplayer ladders aren't even in there. Like, that's a core thing to have in that
automated
game.
tournaments. Like, there's a whole bunch of bugs and animation glitches. Like, even in the VG, the sort of like, you know, completely frankly honest write-up was saying that even when sort of key deaths happen in the story, that some of those animations aren't matching up.
Have you got the quote?
So it was something like some character being stabbed and just like they're getting taken out because they got stabbed through the left bollock.
Yeah,
which, you know, would take us out, but not what you want, really.
No, not at all. So yeah, you've got like a game that should be rightly revered as one of the greatest games made in that genre, being treated so badly by its own developer.
It's made it worse.
It's just incredibly strange that a remaster of this has got it so catastrophically wrong, and it doesn't seem to have like been for any other reason other than just to cut corners or to try and maximize the amount of profitability. This game was always going to sell well.
Yeah, well, it should have done.
I don't understand why they've taken effort out of it. It actually takes effort to remove things that you've like put in the first place.
I don't. The thing is, like we've sat here so much, and it's true that no developer sets out to make a bad game.
Yeah.
And you know, you look back at the recent history, like I said, of Blizzard, and during the whole Overwatch controversy, there were so many staff that were either on strike or were walking out of their offices just saying, like, look, we don't want to work under these conditions, which points to managerial oversight or publishers putting the demands on them. Now, I don't know if that was in regards to like a release date that had to be moved up or something, but it's just like I said, their reputation is this player-first company that you would assume would move and shift release dates to fit what benefits the consumer and what benefits the final product, and that is completely the opposite at the minute. Now, I remember when Blizzard merged with Activision back in like 2006 or something, and I think that they mostly maintained their goodwill, but like, and you know, for the next few years, but the last few years now have just been like one massive mistake after another.
It just seems to be that there are a few companies out there like Blizzard that are just making these like simple mistakes. Like if you have the affordability of time and money, they have an incredibly successful franchise on their hands with World of Warcraft. They have one of the most successful versions of that, Warcraft 3. They've already told people that it's going to take time to get it right. Therefore, they have already set that precedent to say it'll be out when it's ready. Yeah. Why release it at any other stage? Like if it doesn't have 100% of the features that it had, but back in whenever it was that it released in the early 2000s, if it doesn't have this sort of like sustainability or a marketplace that is fair or whatever going forward into it to adapt it to the 2020s, then how the hell can you say that you're treating that product with respect? I
know, and it's like, especially because, I mean, maybe they kind of come from the mentality that we had across the last couple of years where it's like, you know, release dates can't be moved, get the thing out, we'll patch it later, etc., etc. Recently, obviously, we've seen that massive swath of delays.
Yeah, completely upturning that, proving that you don't need to basically bow down and say, like, look, we're going to just shove a game out, because this is what it is. That was a direct reaction to games that have been pushed out on a yearly cycle that have been going downhill in quality. So your NBA 2Ks and
WWE 2K,
like all of those things. Like in a direct response to that, other companies have gone, we don't want to just put out absolute
We don't want to be on fire.
Yeah, exactly. So for Blizzard, one of the biggest companies in the industry, to just go, but we're just
I think as well, if they just communicated this, if they put a trailer out, do a developer trailer or something, just say, look, we had this target render in 2018, we showed you some cutscenes, it's going to take an extra X months, maybe even a year, whatever it is, to get this right to deliver the thing that we showed you, most people, I think, would have gone, cool.
Yeah,
because the response to Cyberpunk, Final Fantasy, Doom, etc. was all people going, okay, take as long as you need.
Because they know that they're going to get a better product out of it. Because this whole idea of games as services, they've kind of warped what the value of games are. And they couldn't do it with this. They couldn't just say it's a remaster, but it's also a games as service, then we'll get it up to that stage. They had to pick a fixed delivery point, but they've just chosen the wrong one. And then to not give any refunds as well, with people having problems, legitimate complaints, because like, why would you go and play a game that is theoretically worse today than the game that came out in the early 2000s?
There's also like someone,
that you can still play.
Yeah, there's
like,
also someone posting saying that they can't get a refund because the official statement was you've played too long, and they were like, well, I can't even get on it because it keeps crashing. So unless they're classing the minutes played as like the menu, it's not really anything.
It's utterly like it goes into the point of like farce. It's farcical, like that a company this big will not considered taking a hit on this one product that they have clearly made the mistake in, and they think that by banning people and doing this, that somehow they're all just going to quiet down, disappear, and eat their gruel. But the problem is that people like us exist, people like loads of other media outlets exist. The entire player base is incredibly vocal. You can't silence them. So how the hell did they think this was going to work?
Just delete the trailer and re-upload it, and then just pretend that's the only one that's there, and then patch it. And then you just keep going. This
would be like halfway through this news video if you literally disappeared and we replaced you with Rich, and I just called him Scott for the rest of it.
Rich with a little strip-on beard.
People would notice. People would notice.
But not if you don't. I guess if you don't acknowledge it either, that's just being Blizzard. Just pretending everything's fine, even though you're literally on fire. But
obviously, as this develops, we will give you much more information as and when it comes, because obviously trying to find out what is wrong with the game, what people are saying about it, is quite difficult when messages are coming up being deleted straight away. So you can't actually get ahead on what is wrong with the game.
It's definitely a big old mess.
We do have to actually say one thing as well. I know that we've been very harsh on this, with good reason, but apparently the actual reviews of the game that have come out, they've said, well, besides all of this, the fundamentals are still the same. It is still an exceptional game. Yes. But you shouldn't have to slog through all of these problems that should not exist.
It's basically, if you didn't have the original to compare it to, and if you hadn't seen the 2018 trailer, if you were just going in completely divorced of all that stuff, then you'd be able to still pick up a very solid RTS. But when you know the features that are missing and you know what was promised in 2018, the fact that those things aren't there and the miscommunications that came in the interim, it does make the new release a catastrophic letdown.
So it basically means that whatever time it is, there's always one developer that's doing something ridiculously
Passing the baton
weird.
Of hate.
Yeah, it's like Bethesda's just like, thank God, here you go, mate. Take this one. That's you for 2020.
We'll take it back when Starfield comes out and it's the same game engine as Fallout 3.
I'm completely unrelated to this. There was another Blizzard thing that was like fairly recent as well, where they crowdfunded their own prize pool. They didn't put any money into it. That's another story, but just completely just goes to show they're absolutely mad. But anyway, as the story develops, we'll give you more and more updates on this, and I'm sure that there probably will be more updates on this
right now as we record this.
But until then, let us know what you think about it down in the comments. Are you disappointed with this? Are you a fan of Warcraft 3? And if so, are you sad to see that it's been treated so badly? Let us know down below. And if you want to give us a follow, you can do so at RetroJ with a 0 for myself over on Twitter and for Scott
/LP89.
You're damn right you can. And until then, we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.